Joining us now, Congressman from the 2nd District of Virginia, that's the Virginia Beach area and up through the peninsula, sits on the Appropriations Committee, former Navy SEAL, Republican Scott Taylor. Congressman, good to have you with us, sir.
John, good morning. Great to be with you and your listeners as always.
All right, you're making the rounds here. Saw you on Fox, saw you on CNN, various channels. Appreciate it. Look, we're going into these midterms. You look at the Democratic results Tuesday night in Virginia. I know we talked about this a little bit on election night. Now you had 2 days to reflect on it. What's the message you have back to the White House? What happened?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. And like you said, we talked about election night. We have some time to reflect on it. There needs to be some self-reflection, and that starts at the top with leadership. There's no question and you analyze these things every day, when you look at the turnout, when you look at the polls, the precincts, the messaging, the divisive rhetoric stoked emotions, and it brought folks out. And like you said, with McCullough's coalition and the coalition that now we understand what it looks like, which is important, that came out against us. So we understand how to go about it, how to message, how to who to talk to make sure that we win next time. But it's important that we're not just bitching about it and just saying, well, Gillespie, while we may believe that he wasn't the best candidate, he won. And look, if you didn't support him and you stayed home, shame on you, because look at what we got now. So it's important to not just attribute our loss and our rout, quite frankly, to simply Gillespie being maybe not the best candidate for everyone. We have to also say that it was divisive rhetoric, that it stoked emotion. We say this many times, information leads to a reason, but emotion leads to action, and there's no question the emotion and the intensity was on the other side that led to that. So I think it's important that we do some self-reflecting and that we understand what the shape of that coalition is now that won, the winning coalition against us, and that we're properly addressing those constituents so that we can move forward.
So what are some of the solutions here? Let me start with this. Corey Stewart, who is the front runner to be the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in 2018, and Scott Taylor, you're running for re-election in 18. If Stewart is the nominee, he's going to lead the ticket. So this is real stuff now. He called for John Whitbeck to resign. He blamed the whole thing on Ed Gillespie. What is your reaction to that?
Look, I with all due respect to Corey Stewart, and I know he's running, and I'm glad that anybody that wants to step into the ring and run, it's good. I think that is the absolute wrong thing to do. I think if Mr. Stewart was a nominee and there was that kind of rhetoric, it would have been even worse, and we certainly would have lost the House. We have to have self-reflection. We have to understand that they built a coalition, and that coalition was solidified and energized with that rhetoric, with that type of rhetoric. It's important that leaders bring people together, united for a purpose, and move forward. It's not the opposite. We should, as Republicans, be adding and not subtracting. John Whitbeck worked his ass off. Ed Gillespie worked his butt off. I'm not sure that any more hard work from their side could have helped them out, to be honest with you. So, I think that's the wrong approach. I think it's a losing approach, and I would just hope that we could have a little bit of self-reflection and move forward. I heard, I hear the rhetoric that Ed could have been more like Trump, which is, listen, Ed's not Trump. Trump is Trump, and you know that very well. He is a unique individual, and there are many people, and we all know people like this. We all know people who are really funny, and they say offensive things that we laugh at. We think it's funny to us, but something like the same joke out of someone else's mouth is offensive. Don't try to be someone that you're not. I think people want to see folks that are authentic, and that if you're inauthentic and you try to be someone you're not, it's very obvious, and it's a turnoff. Be yourself. Move forward with what you believe in, and people who believe what you believe will follow. Period. So I would just caution and encourage my Republican peers to be themselves. Our message is good. It's timeless. Our beliefs and our ideals resonate and work for everyone in this country, and you should use that and message that to who you are, not to who someone else is.
Well, Scott Taylor, Congressman, 2nd District, Virginia Beach area, Republican, sits on the Appropriations Committee, former Navy SEAL. I agree with you 110%. I mean, I thought Corey's comments yesterday, asking for people to resign one day out, just a little bit over the top. However, I mean, and I'll grant this, he does resonate because he's like You know, they had their shot. They lost everything. They had a disastrous night. You know, give somebody else a chance. So I mean, there's I mean, there's a level of legitimacy to what the guys say.
I find it very hypocritical, folks that were out. Like I got a primary opponent too, John, and it's so ridiculous. I see some of the stuff that they say. They're like, support the president, work towards repeal and replace. Well, guess what? I voted for repeal and replace. Guess what? I'm going to make sure I do my best to get this tax plan through for American folks. Guess what? I supported more funding for the wall. All the things are like, well, you're not doing that. Well, that's BS, man. There's 278 bills sitting in the Senate right now that haven't moved forward. So, look, I support the president 100%, and I'll defend him, and I have many times. But if I disagree with him, I'm damn sure going to say that too. And I just find folks that are like, oh, well, you have to be 100% for somebody. I think that is the stupidest BS in the world. There's no one that we agree with 100% of the time. I think, you know, some of the folks that are out there saying those things, they're not helping Republicans. They're hurting Republicans. And if you stayed home because you didn't like Ed Gillespie, but he was our nominee, and he went through and you didn't vote for him because you didn't like him, I hope that you're happy because we deserve the government that we voted for or we got. So I would just encourage people to come together, work together, focus on 2018. That's House, that's Senate, that's I think some state Senate seats potentially. And let's win the damn thing next time. You know, let's lick our wounds. Let's with clarity. Let's look at some of the lessons that are learned and really analyze them without putting blame on everybody else, but understanding and speaking about what it was and what we think that did go wrong, and let's change it. Let's come together. Let's move forward, and let's win next time.
I think that's spot on, Scott Taylor. It really is. I mean, you got it. One of the things here that there's a lot of nonsense floating around. But you're right. I mean, you got to take a day like we've done, reflect, look at the numbers, and give a real-life, honest-to-goodness, non-delusional, non-hyperbole assessment of what went down on Tuesday night. I mean, they got their people out.
Sorry.
They got their message out, and now you just have to deal with it.
Simple analyzing of the numbers, right, of the polls, right, of the fact that Ed Gillespie got as many votes as Bob McDonnell did, or that in my own district, which flipped, in the 85th district, the lady who won there got more votes than I did 4 years ago. So clearly saying that John Whitbeck didn't do his job or Ed Gillespie didn't run a great race doesn't account for the routing of the down ballot. It doesn't account for the intensity or the amount of people who showed up for the Democrats. So to just go out and just call on people's resignation, I think, is misguided and it's hurtful to our party.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, it's certainly easy to do the day after disaster. I mean, that's kind of the easy way out. It's like I said earlier, you can change the manager, but if you don't change the players on the team, you're going to get most likely the same result. And look, I'm going to get tax cuts in a minute, but I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say it with complete candor. I voted for Frank Wagner in the primary. All right? I love Frank. I thought he would have been a much better candidate than Ed ever would have been. Do I think Frank Wagner would have been elected governor on Tuesday? No, I don't. Would maybe he gets beat by 5 instead of 10? Yeah, maybe. Probably, maybe 4. But nothing was going to stop this wave that they had. They found their voters. They relitigated the Clinton race. They identified them. They got the right message. They stoked them. They got them out. They won. You got to deal with this. And the Republican Party of Virginia is right now, Scott, not equipped to compete with the machine that McAuliffe has pieced together. Now, let's get to tax cuts. We got to get something done, Scott. You got to get this middle-class tax cut done. How does it look?
So right now, let me preface it by saying, right now as the how do I say it, the framework basically in the House and the Senate, both of them have doubling the standard deduction, right? So, for example, in my second district, there's almost 64% of the folks who don't currently itemize. So most certainly with a double standard deduction, with compressed rates, less rates, they will save money on their taxes, 60-some% of them. Now, the other folks and at the higher end, there are still things that are getting worked out in the bill. That's happening right now in Ways and Means, getting marked up this week. We should see something probably towards the end of this week or beginning of next week from the House that has all those other things hashed out, right? So once that's done, we should be voting on it next week in the House. I do think that we will pass it. Now, there may be some
there may be some issues, like I said, that are still getting worked out right now. But the 60-some% of the folks in my district and certainly around Hampton Roads will see a tax cut. And once that's done, once it's voted in the House, it'll go to the Senate. They're going to be probably working up their own bill as well, however, within the framework structure-wise. And then once they pass it, it'll come to conference and it'll be hashed out, and then we will all vote on it again before it goes to the president's desk. I agree with you 100%. One of the best ways to deal with yesterday and a couple days ago was our loss, not just in Virginia, because there were also losses in Georgia and in Pennsylvania and other places as well, too. So the best thing that we can do is be successful. The best thing we can do is do what we said we were going to do and help the American people. It's not to divide each other. It's to press forward united and get something done.
Trump has to get results. He got elected,
Absolutely.
Scott Taylor, to get results, to make deals, to drain the swamp, and to get results. He didn't get elected to pick fights with Bob Corker or somebody in Louisiana or send tweets out. Okay, that's fine. That's his personality. Good for him. They're entertaining. He got elected to get stuff done. You got to get this tax cut done. The president has to get involved in it. He's got to get a tax cut before Christmas.
The best thing I think, John, for the president to do, using his bully pulpit and to fight or to press to get this tax cut done, isn't, like you said, it's not Bob Corker, it's not Flake, it's not John McCain. Whatever your audience or anybody out there feels about those folks, the best thing to do is work with pressure on those 12 vulnerable Democrat senators that he won their state last year, who are up for re-election in 2018. That is the best way to use your energy. So even if you do have someone like a Flake or a Corker or a McCain that may not be on board, you just make up for it with a vulnerable Democrat. Do what you need to do to get it done, and that would be my advice for the White House, is to apply that bully pulpit to those folks.
Well, my heavens, Scott Taylor, you and I are on the exact same page, 100%. That's exactly what the president needs to do. And if we can do that, we could get this tax cut going, and we can get to 4% growth. All hell is going to break loose with our economy. And everybody, all the Republicans in 2018 are going to get reelected. When people are feeling great about their pocketbook, good things happen. I'm out of time. I want to thank Scott Taylor for being with us. More information, go to scotttaylor.us. scotttaylor.us. John Fredericks Radio Network. I'll be right back. Keep it right here.
Thanks, John.
With us.